Hi everybody and welcome to the second part of these blueprint tutorials. In this second part we'll create projectiles, we'll create barrels to destroy, gold to pick up and enemies, very simple enemies to kill. These are quick and dirty recaps of the classes in digital arts and entertainment. I hope it's useful for you. Again, I won't explain why I do things, I'll just quickly go through the steps to create the blueprints. So first we'll create a projectile, new blueprint class, and I'm going to call this spell projectile. Let's add a projectile movement to this. And turn off the gravity and max speed, or initial speed, sorry, to 800. Compile and save. In the character, well, we need to shoot it, so I'll go into the project settings to create an input, so another action. This is an action mapping. Skill 1 might have multiple skills, _1, and I'm going to use the letter O for this. And just close this. Right, so we had the movement here. Let's comment this. Oops. Alright, let's take the input and let's spawn our spell projectile. At which location? Well, we can use the arrow component here, and let's get world transform, and let's always spawn. Right, now we won't see the spell projectile since there's nothing here, but we can add a static mesh here, a sphere, and I'm going to call this ball just to make sure it's visible. And let's turn off collision for this mesh. Alright, oops. And right now, let's test this. Let's see. We're shooting balls. They're a bit big for my taste. That's better. Alright. Now we can spawn this skill a lot. If you tap the button enough, you'll spawn on every tick. That's a bit too much. And to simply reduce this, kind of a quick way is do once. And add a delay here. This is the rate of fire. Then we'll set this. So let's say every second we can fire a spell. So now, however quickly you tap it, it'll only happen every second. Alright, in a project like this, where we have these collision volumes to trigger things, we don't want everything to collide with everything. For example, we don't want a bullet going over this button to actually press the button as well. Same thing with enemies, and same thing with different spells. You don't want bullets to collide mid-air, or spells to collide mid-air. Probably look weird. So in our settings, project settings, in our collision, I'm going to create 3 let's see, object channels. One for enemies, one for the player, and one for the enemy projectiles or enemy bullets, and one for the player bullets. You might get away with less, you might need more. This is a simple setup which I think will do for this project. Now, for example, the player projectile should ignore other player projectiles. You can create presets for that. Yeah, it's just a preset of the options here. So I'm going to go into all the blueprints and fix some collision stuff. So here in the static mesh is going to turn off collisions. But for the capsule component, let's set this, well, so if you could create a preset for the player, but you can just choose custom and then choose this. So I think this is actually alright. Maybe we want to ignore our own projectiles. So when at the moment that we're shooting them, we don't want to do anything. Right. Next, for the spells, let's add a collision for this. So sphere collision. It's okay that it's a bit bigger. And again, custom object type, player projectile, and let's overlap everything but ignore our projectiles. I think that's fine. And then for this thing, the spikes, let's walk. So this let's walk on the platform. Let's ignore the spikes. Yeah, no collision. And for this box, let's set this to custom again, and let's ignore everything except overlap with the player. Yeah, in some games you would also overlap with the enemies, so you can lure enemies onto the spikes, but in this case it's not necessary. And then for the button, no collision, and for the box, like this. Alright. Next thing, let's do something with our projectiles. Let's destroy some barrels. So I'm going to create barrels. That's a new actor. And let's get a cylinder, so it looks like a barrel. Alright, in the event graph, let's add a custom event. Let's call it receive damage. We'll probably add an input float. And when we get any damage, first test this. When we get any damage, let's just destroy this actor. Like this, alright. Let's have a look here. This can... yeah, it overlaps with player projectiles. Yeah, we can turn off, probably turn off enemy projectiles and block enemies and the players. Actually, we can see this this barrel as an enemy. An enemy that can't attack and can't move, but can get damage in a very similar way. So these settings are fine, I think. Let's get a few barrels in there. And from our enemy, we'll do the damage in the spell projectile. So when this sphere overlaps with another actor, we'll give that other actor some damage. So the damage is only in the barrel, so let's do cost. And here let's receive damage. The amount doesn't matter yet, so let's play and let's see if we destroy this. Oops, we're rotating kind of slow here. Yeah, and we destroy both the barrels. So in spell projectile, whenever we destroy a barrel, we probably also want to stop moving. So let's destroy this actor as well. Like this. Alright, so very basic projectiles and very basic enemies done. We'll add moving enemies in a minute. Let's first add some gold to pick up. So another blueprint class based from actor. Call this gold pickup. And let's add a small cylinder. So a scale about this. So a flat plane. Let's rotate this and move it up a little. And let's add a rotator to this. Yep. Oops, it's not rotated correctly. Okay, this. And let's add a collision. Alright, let's add this collision and set the collision settings for this. So custom, let's ignore everything except overlap with the player, and turn off collision for the actual mesh. And then let's, when we start overlapping with the player, let's cast to my character, and I have to do something to my character, tell the character we have picked up gold. So in our character, let's use a function, new function, say picked up gold, and inside of this function let's change a variable called total gold, which I think gold coins can be an integer, it could be a float as well. Default set to 0. And then let's get this and set this and add. Yeah, when we pick up gold, we probably want to know how much we picked up. So a new input, gold amount, and also an integer. So let's add this integer plus integer to and set this, and then set this, and then print this. You might want to append strings append, total gold, total gold space, it's fine. So this is good enough. Now in our gold picked up, we can call this function, and we can set the gold amount, and let's see. Yeah, and let's just give every coin a random gold value at the begin play. Why not? So gold value integer. You'd have strange amounts of gold, but that's fine. Here, set gold value, and let's see, random integer in range from 1 to, I don't know, 12. Alright, and then let's place this in there. Okay, now when something's picked up, let's destroy this gold. Alright, let's test our gold pickup. So a few coins. Let's see, done something wrong there. Probably there's no collision happening with the player. Oops. There should be an overlap with the player. Is the player of type player? Let's have a look. No, he's still a pawn, so let's set him to the player, and this should be working. Okay, so that one was 9 gold. That one was okay, 8 gold, and then we got even more gold. Nice. Let's find some gold in our barrels. So in this barrel, instead of just dying right away, let's make this a bit more extensive. So every time we receive damage, we might not always get killed, or we might not always be destroyed entirely. Maybe some attacks do too little damage to actually destroy us. So let's change damage and actually die. So we can die, but we can also receive damage. And this will end up in our death. So let's see, add variable or health. Let's be floats, and let's set our health to 10. And every time we receive damage, we deduct our health from the we reduct the damage we received from our health. So this one minus float minus float. And then let's set our health to this result. However, if after this set we are at 0, so if our health is smaller than or equal to 0, we're actually dead. So in that case, we'll die. And if not, we'll print our health like this. Alright. If we're dead, let's possibly spawn some gold. So let's not always spawn gold. So if random float, so just a random float will return a float between 0 and 1, as you can see there. So if this is smaller or equal to a certain drop chance, so let's say 60%, in that case we will spawn a gold coin. There we go. And at which position? Of course, the same position as this actual barrel. So get rolled. Let's see, get rolled transform. Do we need to do this? Yeah, okay. It doesn't matter. And let's see, always collide, always spawn. If it's not the case, we still need to destroy this actor, so it's fine. Let's comment this. Better. And let's test it out. Okay, so right now we're not doing any damage with our bullets, so every time our barrel still has 10 health, which is what we did. But so let's set a damage here. Let's choose 5 for now, so you have to shoot it twice. So once, second time, okay, no luck there, no gold. And there we have a coin. Was the very big one, but okay. Good. Now let's create some simple moving enemies as well. So we can close, yeah, and so let's make some simple moving enemies, but first I find it slightly annoying that my player rotates so slow. So in the rotation rate here, I think 1000 degrees per second will be snappier and better. Yeah, that's better. Alright. New enemies. Blueprint class. These are actual characters. And let's call them simple enemy. Because I won't use the blackboards here. Not saying blackboards isn't useful, and just gonna keep it simple here. Let's add a cone. Oops. And as you can see, very scary enemies. Alright, and yeah, reduce this a bit. And let's see, in here our AI controller. Yeah, should be set to AI controller, that's fine. Turn this off and turn orient rotation to movement on. And let's reduce the maximum walk speed quite a bit. Max walk speed, here it is, 600. Let's reduce this to 300. Alright. So, in the event graph, let's create a custom event. Chase player. And in here we're going to use the AI move to function. I think this one, yes, and the pawn is self. The destination will be the character. So let's look for the player character, and from this let's get his location. Get actor location. Alright. Or we could just plug this straight into target actor, maybe that's cleaner. Acceptance radius, it's fine. So we'll start chasing the player at the begin of play. But if we plug an enemy in here now, let's see, maybe I should remove some of the other things or make this platform bigger. I like that. Alright. So it won't work yet because of course we have no navigation mesh. Let's get a navigation mesh in there. Whoops. So volumes, nav mesh, bounce volume, place it in the middle, scale it, or increase the size, not sure if it matters. Then if you press P, you should see the result. And in our enemy, let's also set up our collision straight away. So this thing should have no collision, and our capsule itself should be an enemy, which should, I think, block everything, should ignore enemy projectiles, and should overlap player projectiles. Alright, let's see. So now our enemy is slowly moving towards us, and I think, yeah, we can't hit it yet. It won't do anything yet. We can hit our barrel though. Yeah. So let's damage our enemies. So now we have to do a second cast, which is kind of annoying, but we'll fix this in the next part. So let's do a sequence here. Yep, sequence. And in the second case, cast to simple enemy, and also call an event receive damage in the simple enemy. We're getting to something, but that's for the second, for the next part. Receive damage. I'm going to keep this simple. You could do very similar things to the barrel, but for now let's keep this simple and just destroy this actor. Alright, and let's always destroy our bullet, whatever happens. If we don't hit anything, our bullet will keep flying. Well, not forever and ever, but for a while. So we could set the life, or we could simply do a delay here of like 1.5 seconds, so it should be off screen by that time, and then destroy it anyway. Okay, so player is dead, and the barrels are getting destroyed. Alright, you know what, let's fix this mess right now. So instead of doing cost for each type of class, we can use something else for this. We can share events, or rather functions, for a whole number of groups of objects. We can do that using an interface. So let's create an interface. Go to blueprints, blueprint interface, and I'm going to call this enemy interface, since I might put a bunch of functions in there which are useful for enemies. Won't explain interfaces here, just use them. So receive, receive damage. And let's add an input here, an output. Right, so I found out that apparently you need to add an output. Not sure if this is a bug in this version of Unreal, but I'm just going to do a boolean and call it success, so we know that this happened, and then damage, and this is a float. Alright, so now in our simple enemy class settings interfaces, we can add our enemy interface, and here we have a receive damage function, so we don't need this anymore. We'll use the receive damage function instead, and instead do a custom death for everything. So custom event or die. Let's remove that, and to keep it simple, if you receive any damage, let's die. So simple setup. For the barrel, it's slightly more complex. So the damage that we did here are these bits. Let's do those in, well, let's include the interface first. Enemy interface, no. Okay, so this seems to be a little bug that I found. There's some other people have reported the same thing. If I click on enemy interfaces, it just won't show up. And if you just recreate the interface, it actually works. Alright, so as you can see, I had to create it again. Don't know why. It's clearly okay. We already have a function. Can I remove this one? Okay. Yeah, let's use a new name. Let's say do damage, since we're calling this from another class anyway. Right, so we should be good to go here. Do damage. Yep, this should work. In the enemy, just die, and in the barrel, we have to do this whole damage thing in there. So let's see if we can just copy the entire nodes. See if that will work. Seem to work fine. Alright. And let's return. Yeah, let's return success. Every time we actually did this, let's just return this as true. Alright. And then, so with this implemented in our spell projectile, instead of doing this, this is now obsolete. So we don't have to cast anymore. We should be able to say do damage to our object, and from this return boolean we can know if this was actually implemented or not, because you can't know. But anyway, whatever it hits, let's destroy this, and let's do our 5 damage. So let's test if this is still working. And as you see, I'm no longer spawning projectiles, and this is because at the moment that it spawns, it's already colliding or overlapping with something, and it's getting destroyed right away. So we don't want this so that's where this success boolean can come into play, and we can add a branch in there and only destroy it if we hit something that uses this do damage or implements this do damage interface. And now this should be working. So let's destroy our barrels. Yep, some gold. And no luck there. Alright. Some visual feedback. We can do that with some materials. So base color, and let's just color. Oh. And so we just have a base, a very simple, basic, diffuse only color. And let's make instances of this. So instead of base color, let's call it color. Color hit. Alright, and change the color to red. Alright. And then when our barrel is actually hit, we can change the color. So I have to go back here. I can't do a delay inside of one of these functions. However, I can call in the, I think, receive damage event. Yeah, receive damage event, just like this instead. And then delete all this. So just have this as the interface, and in the event here we can use delays. So let's when we get hit, do a set yeah, we can do it. Can do the mod first. Only when we don't die. So here, set material. Let's see, of the cylinder. Yep, and that can be the hit material. And let's wait a few. Wait for a bit and reset it to set material to the base color. Perfect. And actually use the base color here as the first material. So now when we are hitting our barrel, we can actually see that we've hit something. And this gives a bit of player feedback. Alright, so that's it for part 2. I hope I see you guys for part 3, where I'll implement animated characters. So see you then. Bye.